So I see constantly online that there's this huge push that, all employers should be doing flexible work. Everyone should be, allowing people to work from home. The commute is against mental health and, giving people that time back. Whereas I genuinely kind of feel the other way, that having people in the office and being able to have eyes on each other. I'm not saying like management has eyes on the staff. I'm not looking at everyone. I want eyes on me as well. Like, we all work together. I want someone I'm working with who works for me, whatever. But I want someone to turn around and be like, "You're right, bud. That was,
Yeah.
hard day." And I'm like, "Yes, yes, it is."
I,
So how have you seen that? Obviously, you speak to so many industries. Like, how have you seen this kind of this new way of working change?
you know what? I think that the dangerous thing is what we were saying at the very beginning of this show, which is there's one rule to solve, like there's one thing to solve all things, right? That's not absolutely true. Like some industries and some workplaces and some cultures actually love being in the office. I actually did a talk yesterday where they have hybrid, so you can work from home if you want to, you can come into the office. Everyone chose to come into the office yesterday because it was they just wanted to. And so I think it's being able to, you've got to understand your workplace, right? So you can't sit there and go, we've gone to hybrid working, we've closed all offices, we've done all of this, but because it's not going to suit everyone. I think you've got to understand companies, what you have to do. You can't just look at what the noise is saying, the 4-day working week, the hybrid working, the, you know, working from home, complete remote working, all of that, and just go, that's what we're going to do, without actually understanding what do your employees want, what's your organization actually needing, what do you need as a manager. Now, I'm not saying, obviously there's people that will come in and go, oh, managers just want people in the office so they can tell people what to do, so they can micromanage. Sometimes, like exactly what you said, it's just like, oh, I just want to make sure my guys are doing all right. It has nothing to do with their quality of their work, it has nothing to do with work. I just want to make sure as a human being they're doing okay, right? And when I think we can all agree, during lockdown, it was easy to put on a face, like a mask, and go like, "Yeah, I'm really, really great," but like you've just like come out of the bathroom crying, right? Just like, oh, God. So it's, and I think that that's one thing to look at it. So I think at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of meeting your team where they're at and what do they need. And sometimes it's and kind of reading between the lines, like what do you actually want and what do you actually need, and being able to understand the difference. And some people will go, I really love being in the office. And some people will be like, I actually like working from home a little bit, but I like being able to come into the office and connect with people and things like that. So giving that option. So it's kind of hard for me to say
I don't think there's a
everyone should
particular,
be
yeah,
doing.
and I don't think there's a particular answer. I just
Yeah.
think that somehow, especially because the gig economy has become such a thing over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, there's an awful lot of people who are working from home, have worked from home for an awful long time. The pandemic hit, and they were like, "What's everyone worried about?" Everyone that know like that has a space as an office, has somewhere in their house where they're able to do what I was talking about. Skadoosh, door closed, not my probs anymore. Whereas we have people working for us who live in shared accommodation.
Yeah.
So if they're going to work from home, and they did, it was, at the desk at the end of the bed.
Yeah.
So that's their whole life, with
In
work
their room.
stirring them.
Yeah.
That's horrid, man. I hated it. I really did dislike it. And I think when it came around to the second lockdown, it was like, if you can work from home, you should. I turned around and was like, I can't. I
Yeah.
can't do it anymore. Like, I have to go back to the office. I have to have people around me. I have to,
Hmm.
if anything, just so I can't sit there with with no one around me being like, Jesus. With people around me, I don't do that. I don't wind myself up,
Yeah,
So
I think
just
it's,
having that
I was
interaction.
working with a company last year who were really, really struggling with the whole, we actually wanted the people in the office
Mm,
because they were like, we don't want to be like, we don't want to come across like we're micromanaging. But the
no.
owner was really concerned about his team's mental health. And he's like, we can't pinpoint when someone's not coping. And, for instance, if we go back to the Great Resignation with a lot of people resigning, if you were in the office and you could see that person struggling and not coping, you'd
Exactly.
be able to have that conversation with them.
Mm,
So, you know, I think that there's definitely a conversation piece here where you can't just sit there and say, well, my company won't let me work from home. It's because of, they're just micromanagers, they're all of that. They might be, for sure. I'm not saying that that's not happening, but you've also got to understand that sometimes managers are just trying to figure out how to support people. And you've got to remember mental health has become a very, very big topic right now. And I think it's a great topic to be having, but we're still
mm.
trying to freaking work out the murkiness, right? We're trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what should we be doing in that space. And people are, having to just try and figure out what's working. And like I said, so the same conversation about the 4-day work week. For some people, that's going to be amazing. For others, it's going to be super stressful.
Because now you have to do 5 days work in 4.
Yeah. And the other thing is as well, if that's not the problem, if you've got burnout or stress issues in your organization and you're like 4-day work week, but that's actually not the biggest pain point. The biggest pain point is your employees don't feel like they can share when they're struggling. They don't feel like they can't let you know that actually, what, the workload is just a little bit too much, it's unrealistic, things like that. You're going to miss a beat there because you're actually then someone's already not coping with a 5-day work week, and that's why they're burnt out and they're really stressed out because they're just trying to do too much because maybe they've said yes but they should be saying no.
Exactly.
I'm feeling like they have to say yes, and then you're going, okay, now you got to do your crazy workload in 4 days. Yay, that person's going to be super overwhelmed. So
it's like the concept of unlimited holiday. As long as you don't have projects to deliver, have unlimited holiday. No one takes holiday.
That's the other thing. It's like another company I was talking, someone else that I was talking to who was going to go work for a big company, and they were like, we have every second Friday off, but no one takes it. So it's nice. It's a nice perk, but you've got to understand. Yeah, well, it's nice, but if people aren't, it's not really a perk if people aren't using it.
And if you're the only person using it, and everyone's being like, "Oh, see you later, Billy." Billy's going again on a Friday. Then all of a sudden,
peer pressure, mate. Peer pressure every time.
So I agree, right? As a business leader, as people's manager, I'm now so much more in tune with the fact that I should be having these conversations, and I try and have them. But we were talking before the show started about how you're putting something together to actually help business leaders and some of the people going through it, go into it. Because I think for the latter half of this year to actually help them deal with it. Because I think, like I said, the issue I have is that, great, let's talk about it. You're talking to me about it. Now what? Do I just ask if you're right every minute? You're right. I mean, that's not helpful for anybody.
Yeah.
But, I've not been taught. The only thing that's happened is there's been a cultural shift over the last 2 years where it's like, hey, mental health should be part of the conversation. And I'm like, yay. It wasn't when I was an employee. What do I do?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I've learned working in this space for, like 3-4 years now, especially in the UK, is it's being able to help people and organizations from a dual approach, right? It's being able to understand that your employees need support, right? So one of the biggest things that I'm working with a lot of companies is helping them understand what's actually the root issue in your organization. Where is everyone at? So what's your culture like? What's your engagement like? And what's the well-being of your team like? So understanding that actually will give us a platform of understanding how we can support everyone, employees as well as leaders as well. So coming at it from the top down, bottom up kind of approach. But what I'm decided to do at the end of, I'm going to launch it probably to second half of this year, is actually start working specifically with sales teams, recruitment companies as well, helping their employees come up with a process of how to manage stress and burnout. And it's not about saying you can't live under pressure. It's actually conditioning them to live under pressure and actually perform at the best that they can possibly do, right? And so the whole purpose of that is working in 3 specific ways. It's helping their teams understand what they actually need to do to physically help support themselves. So diet, exercise, and sleep. What can they do to actually mitigate the impact of stress on themselves? The second part of that would actually be looking at how can we actually help prime them mentally and actually condition their mindset to be able to deal with a bit more pressure and actually understand that the difference between pressure and stress, helping them give stress management strategies to help prevent burnout. And then the third thing is helping them design the actual right processes within the workplace that are actually going to make them productive and not just feeling overwhelmed and feeling stressed out. So the whole purpose is to create a sustainable workplace, but a sustainable micro ecosystem for that person at the end of the day, right? So they actually know exactly what they need to do that's going to get them to be successful. If you look at all salespeople, you can give them the same process, but they might not all be successful with that process. So it's actually making that process.
I've never seen 2 salespeople follow a process. I've never even seen 2 salespeople follow a freaking script.
No, right? And that's the thing. So I've worked in multiple sales roles. Typically, I've always said to my manager, just let me do me, and if I'm not hitting my target, let's have a chat then. My process was so different to everybody else because my personality was completely different. what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. I'd flex obviously what I was good at. I'd do the things that I wasn't good at and maybe learn a little bit more about that. But obviously that's definitely something there. So that's actually working with the employers, and the whole thing that I'm looking at is actually working across all industries, right? Across all sales industries. So it's not just going to be salespeople from the recruitment world, things like that, but actually getting a group of people to understand the tools and techniques that they need to be successful. The second thing that I want to be doing with the organizations and companies is actually working with their leaders. So the whole idea with working with their leaders is doing the same thing, priming them to be the best leader that they can possibly, physically, mentally, and obviously understanding how they work and what they need as well, but also actually training them up on that leadership skill to actually support their employees. So what are the signs and symptoms of burnout? When can you actually tell someone's not doing, they're not doing really well? How do you actually tackle somebody when they're not performing very well? What's the kind of conversations you need to have? How can you actually build an incredible culture within your team to actually drive performance sustainably? So that's what I'm going to be working with the leaders on, and that's going to be more like that kind of group coaching style thing as well, which I think is really important, because I think leaders get promoted into these roles, or business owners, without maybe having the skills of being an actual leader, and they just end up floundering, going like, I don't even know if this is right, but I'm going to give it a go. And it's no fault of their own. They're doing the best they can with the tools that they've been given. So let's sharpen those tools.